Smart 24, driving business.
We'll be back from the break, and now we're into our last part of the discussion this morning, rotating around the agricultural sector and its allocation in the next financial year, 2023-2024. Well, today is a public holiday, but I can still remind you about the Zabo platform. Why? Because if you have no account with the platform yet, you can register today with your national identification number. As of Monday, when the markets open, you'll be able to invest and kickstart off your investment. Star 292 hash is the USSD code that you can use to kickstart off your investment, and of course get in sync with the Zabo platform. Zabo says my money, my future, and Altex East Africa reminds you to do something new. The markets on the platform, when it's not the public holiday or a weekend, are open from 8:15 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. So with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, you can choose to invest in any government bond that you prefer to invest in. Zabo, my money, my future, and it's powered by Altex East Africa, which says do something new. And okay, as we get deeper in understanding what it means to run the agricultural sector from the side of the farmers, the agricultural sector contributes greatly to our economy if you come to think of it. But now the private sector is saying government is doing less when it comes to, first of all, the extension workers. This has been a very key issue. Most of the civil society players are saying, well, regardless of the fact that the agro-industrialization allocation has been increased, not so much though, because according to the figures here, it has only been increased by 23%. And one would wish, if you are prioritizing it under the agricultural sector, then that means you have to increase more on the allocations. But besides that, there is an issue of the extension workers, because when you come to the observation is that funding of the extension service providers in the local government is still limited. And this is more like we are watering down all the efforts we are putting into the sector entirely. What is the case with the extension workers? What is the realistic case on ground that we are not aware of?
Sure. Thank you, Jerome. You know, when I start extension, I look at this transfer of knowledge. Let's first understand what extension does.
Okay.
Is that from my side, I have my own understanding, but maybe it is not up to standard with the current needs of the market.
Oh, yes.
So our farmers, our forefathers had their own ways of farming, but they probably had the methods that could not meet the current standards.
Okay.
So I'm looking at my own farmer or my own father lacking the knowledge to increase his production, lacking the knowledge to make sure he has quality standards, to improve his standards, making sure that when his animal is sick, he's able to have interventions before the animal gets into worse situations and dies. I'm looking at a farmer understanding the issue of aflatoxin. We have consignments being blocked from entering Kenya, and milk from entering the East African region, and also our fruits and vegetables being blocked from Europe. So if you don't understand this, the ways of knowledge transfer, then you cannot address this issue of extension. What am I saying is that currently, answering your question very well, we are having one extension worker in the crop sector serving how many farmers in the sub-county? This extension worker is having almost 2,000 on average. I don't know which sub-county you come from, but my sub-county has really grown into population, including my children. They also need extension. So When will this extension worker in crop serve over 2,000 farmers?
Big question.
And how is this extension worker facilitated to reach the different farmers from the last mile? And then when we go to livestock, we have one livestock extension worker serving the entire sub-county. Even if the farmers were in groups, trust me, Joram, it is almost impossible to serve farmers effectively. We have fishing communities where we don't even have fisheries officers at the sub-county. And this I'm speaking from a realistic point of view.
Yeah.
We've just been generating data from West Nile, Lango, and Achoi, and we've found some loopholes. I appreciate the effort that government has now recruited extension workers. Previously, they have sub-counties that didn't even have an extension worker. But right now, government has recruited. But what is the ratio? The argument is, what is the ratio? So if I am going to prepare my farmers to supply the European market, how have I prepared them? And who is to prepare them?
Okay.
The ones to prepare them are the extension workers. So that big ratio is where our worry is. If, for example, there are high-value commodities, high value meaning we have coffee, we have dairy, we have poultry, we have piggery. These are commodities you'll go into whether you have 4 acres and you're getting some money. But if I do not know how to standardize, how to plant, how to handle pesticides and these diseases, real-time interventions is where the challenge is. So our prayer as the Uganda National Farmers Federation is to strengthen this component of extension. Right now in the current budget, they are saying we are going to scrap the budget allocation. That should be a worry. That should be a big alarm.
Okay.
Because if these extension workers are not well facilitated to reach the ground, and some areas where they are not there, have not been a recruitment exercise, then our farmers will continue to practice dangerous, damaging, and outdated farming practices. If we want our fish to meet the quality standards of the European and American market, we have to strengthen that component of extension. If we want to chase away food that is disastrous or dangerous to our own bodies and the bodies of our friends and neighbors, we have to strengthen the extension service. As a Farmers Federation, we are trying our level best to train our farmers, but we also have a limit because we do not have a budget. You see, we do our part, we train, but the mandate is with the Ministry of Agriculture in working relationship with us, the farmers, and the rest. Okay. So my argument, Joram, would be, since we are contributing to the biggest part of the GDP, let's have our farmers get the right training. Let's have our farmers get extension, timely extension. And let's utilize this budget to get these farmers the right extension with the right training. Some of the extension service providers need refresher trainings because there are case scenarios where we have new challenges and the current knowledge is not addressing these challenges. So we need to do some refresher to standardize, to know that yet I have this knowledge, but I can build capacity of these extension workers to serve the farmers very well. So our argument is, no, let's not think about even cutting this budget because it's not going to be healthy for us. Yesterday we were celebrating World Food Safety Day.
Yeah, World Food Safety.
So, Jerome, I don't know where you buy your food, but
normally, I've always been asked this question: are you just consuming food because you're hungry, or is it safe for you?
Exactly. So that is the question that we are saying. If we cannot address production, ensuring that we sow the right seed and we do the right practices and we harvest the quantities that meet the standards, and then we push these qualities and quantities of the produce into the market. So our prayer would be, let's strengthen the extension service component, because this is the bedrock of our agriculture sector. If our farmers know what to do, they know they will implement what. But actually, these farmers are ready to work because they have been working in conditions that are not favorable, you know, from the lack of seed to climate changes and all these things, but we still have some food in the market. So what if then we strengthen the ability for a farmer to produce more food, meaning we will have better standard of food, we'll have more quantities of food for our homes, but also we'll have more quantities of food to sell outside, which the HE always talks about. The president is saying chida chonka. So how is the chida chonka going to happen when the farmer is still using a hoe? And I would want to really emphasize that. The theme of the NDP3 is talking about agro-industrialization. And over the years, the president has been saying agro-industrialization is our focus.
Okay.
But, Joram, I will pose a question. How would I agro-industrialize when I'm still using a hoe?
And that you want to compete for a market
We
that
want
is using more
sophisticated
yes.
agro, you know, they are even going to precisional plan. They're even going to know, sophisticated digital methods of planning. In the 1960s, when the British were still here, they left us with that tool called a hoe. And it has entrenched the agriculture sector, and it has become a norm that after 60 years, our farmers, my father in Kashari down there is still using a hoe. So if, for example, we want to boost production and we want to say, let's produce more for the market,
Yes.
but the production methods do not change. So it is a wish. We are not addressing the right issues. So as we increase their budget for extension, then we have to increase the ability of this farmer to produce better, to produce smarter. At least if I cannot use an ox plow,
Okay.
let me graduate into a hand-driven tractor. But what is the price of this tractor? What is the price of fabricating the ox plow? And what is the price of these tractors?
Okay.
We were in northern Uganda and part of Lango and West Nile and visiting these large-scale farmers, because our mandate with the Ministry of Agriculture is to identify large-scale farmers where they are, and then we help them use these Arab lands. The government strengthened the mechanization component to help these farmers open this land, at least start producing in high-value commodities specified. But there are sub-counties and even some districts that have no tractor. They hire tractors from neighboring districts.
Just to use for a day, by the way.
And the congestion of those tractors are very high. Meanwhile, they don't have tractor engineers, they don't have tractor operators. So, where are we heading to? So we need to address and allow the vision of the president to actualize by subsidizing the ability of farmers to access these mechanical interventions, but also train these farmers, train the tractor operators, train the tractor engineers, let them reach in all these districts, because government has the ability to do this. And the farmers are already mobilized, because with our structures it is easy. If, for example, we had every district farmers association had a tractor, for instance, they will now know that at least we are going to help these farmers open their land. Okay. So we cannot talk about boosting production if we do not now say, let's put interventions into the mechanization process. But also maybe also the water for production, you know.
Okay.
So we are dependent entirely on rain-fed agriculture. Joram, the rains have been changing over the years. We have rains, and when they come with a lot of interference, and then the seasons are changing. So if we rely on the rain that comes from heaven, then we are not thinking as how God wants us to think, because God says you have to think. We have all these fresh bodies of waters lying idle, and we're not tapping them. Okay. Countries in the Middle East, in North Africa, are giving us fruits. You know, how do we import food from Egypt? It is 99% a desert, but it is producing food and has the ability to export food to Uganda. Okay. So there is need to harmonize some knowledge and understanding, and then address these issues together with budget allocation.
Now, Nelson, as we're summing up with our conversation this morning, what are the recommendations you feel should be considered by the government? Which recommendations can you give to the government?
First and foremost, I would want government to put emphasis on strengthening cooperatives,
okay,
on strengthening farmers. If a farmers' federation has been strengthened, then the farmers are stronger. We can set the price, we can set the standards, but we cannot do that when we are also struggling.
Yeah.
So let's strengthen the farmers' associations, the farmers' cooperatives, the farmers' federations. Then it is easier to now go into the nitty-gritties of training, because we can supplement government efforts. But we cannot supplement government effort when we are also limping. So let's have the budget at least raised to 10% minimum standard for the Maputo Declaration. Because now, if we do not have a stronger budget allocation, then the sector is struggling. The ministry is struggling, the line ministry is struggling, and even very impressive and practical models like the parish development model may not work when we don't have a stronger budget allocation. That is our prayer.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, many thanks for joining us this morning, and thanks for your time. And well, of course, to our viewers out there who have been following up our discussion today, we were ideally rotating around the agricultural sector and, of course, looking deeper in understanding the allocations, where the challenges are, the loopholes, what government needs to address further before the next financial year kicks off. And I've been having Nelson Tukundane, who is the communications manager of the Uganda National Farmers Federation. And of course, he has been giving us from the perspective of the farmers up to the policymakers, and of course from the civil society perspective, or from the point of view of the private sector. And well, that has been our SMB this morning. A happy Heroes Day to all the Ugandan people out there, and to all the farmers wherever you are. Many thanks for everybody who has watched, and of course, till Monday, we wish you all the best. Coming up is Anthony Sebale with Financial Markets. Good morning.
Up next on Smart 24 TV.